Alright, so let's start out by explaining why I'm seeing this movie instead of Finding Dory, because that's what I was originally going to say. So I had some time at work in between shifts, and I was like, oh, I've got time for a movie. I can squeeze a review in there real quick. And so I invited a couple people from work to go, and they ended up not going, which is fine, because I kind of thought of it like 2 hours before I sent the text. I was like, oh, that'd be neat. So it was very last minute notice. So I was like, all right, that's fine. So I get the ticket, I get in there, and I'm watching the trailers for before Finding Dory starts. And I look around, and I realize I am one dude. I'm a grown man, all by himself, surrounded by kids in a dark room. I was like, this feels weird. I feel like someone watched me on security footage before I went in here. No, that was off-putting, but that wasn't enough to get me to go back out. The reason why I changed movies is because there were like 8 or 9 boys who were like 12, 13, were probably the oldest ones, but a couple were a little bit younger or something like that. And they were playing tag in the theater. And the mom or whoever was in charge of them was trying to get them to shut up and calm down, but she did not have control of that situation. So, and I was not about to. I gave it a couple trailers to give her a chance, but it wasn't going to turn out well, and I wasn't the only one who backed out. So that's why that happened. So I decided to see Warcraft instead. Good luck is what I would say to anyone that's curious enough to see this movie and without any kind of like prerequisite knowledge about the games, because man, poor kid behind me is not having it. Because good Lord, it was hard to care about anything going on in this movie. It took a little while, and I started to care a little bit, but man, the first like 20, 30 minutes, it's a rough sit. It's not a bad movie, especially like cinematography wise. There's a lot of really good shots. They do a really good job of, especially in the combat scenes, of you really feel the impact of a lot of stuff. It makes it feel, which is tough to do when it's something that's CG. It's tough to have something that's not really there be convinced, to convince you that it actually is not only actually there, but it has like weight and impact behind it. So it does a lot of things well. It just does not start off well. It does not start off as a good movie. It becomes a passable movie later. And I even put the word passable in quotations because this feels like an inside joke between millions of people, and I'm not one of them. This feels like imagine if the first Lord of the Rings movie you ever saw was Return of the King. Or, no, not Return of the King, Two Towers. If Two Towers was the first Lord of the Rings movie you ever saw, if that was your exposure to the Lord of the Rings series, how do you think you would feel about that? You'd be like, oh, okay, what's this between like a love, like why is Aragorn interested in Liv Tyler? She's an elf. What's an elf? What's the difference between they're immortal apparently? What are these things in black, like, that was weird, look like a friend of mine. What are these things in black cloaks? What's this now about whose brother died when? You'd be very lost. The thing is with fantasy epics like this, there's a lot of terminology you're not used to hearing in an everyday conversation. But a lot of the time, like you almost always have somebody around to either explain it, or you can draw it from context or something like that. The Warcraft movie is not really interested in filling you in on what's going on. They do a little bit, and like I said, with context, later you can kind of glean things from prior situations, things like that, but a lot goes unexplained for a long time. And that's in good storytelling, you shouldn't have to have any kind of prior knowledge jumping in. You shouldn't have to do research to understand what's really going on. And like I said, you do kind of get used to it. You do kind of pick up into it later. But even still, there are some... Man, it's hot. There are some things that still kind of keep it from ascending into what it thinks it is. One of them just being the simple matter of costumes and things like that. A lot of people in this movie look like cosplayers. I hate to say it, but there's a lot of really close shots of the king in his crown, and they're all, they're held in tighter than this. And the problem with holding a shot like that's that close for that long, is that you end up seeing all the details in the crown, and then you notice that it's just one big piece of thing that just has jewels painted onto it. There's not any kind of like separate pieces to it. It doesn't feel like an actual ornament that a king would wear. And that's kind of a rule of thumb with everyone, whether it comes to their armor or just their robes or the weapons they wield. A lot of people, with the exception of some of the key warrior characters in this, a lot of people in this movie hold their swords like kids at playtime at a lot of parts. It doesn't feel like they really did any kind of like... There's one like half-orc character. I don't know if I should put like a spoiler warning at the beginning of this or not, because again, I don't know what's going to be a spoiler or not, because I don't know what dictates as a spoiler, because I don't know. The impression that I got from this is that it's a prequel to the games in themselves, but again, I don't know for sure. They throw around a lot of titles. They throw around, like, there's a guy named the Guardian who's been gone for some reason. I don't know why. He's just been gone for a while, and they're all kind of pissy about it. And there's this other mage that the Guardian has a problem with. He keeps talking about, like, you're not a Guardian yet. And it's like, oh, okay, so he's supposed to replace him or something? But no one ever See, a fish out of water character is what this movie could have really used. Someone who's not used to the way, like, the mage system works, or the classes, or whatever. Because then when someone stops to explain it to them, we as the audience understand and we learn along with them. That helps us to bond with that character, and then we also get to kind of learn about how things work in this world. But no one ever really does that, despite the fact that the half-orc, half-human character, or whatever, see, it can't be a half-human because they've never even been to this world before. So she's half-orc and half something else. I don't know. That's never really explained either. It probably is in the games. But again, in good storytelling and good screenwriting is what I'll say. In good screenwriting, that really shouldn't matter. But the thing is, with all these complaints that I have, and I feel that they are valid, they are objective complaints, at no point was I angry or frustrated with the movie. It kept me going along, mostly because of the orc stuff. Which again at first was confusing, but once you kind of start to learn, again from context, their situations, you see kind of how their system works, their lifestyle, I found myself much more invested in the orc side of the story than the human aspect of the story. And that's primarily what kept me going, as I kept wanting to go back. Not that the human stuff was necessarily bad, it's just, it was way easier to keep track of the orc stuff than the human stuff. The human stuff, they jumped to I think they jumped to 4 locations in the span of about 2 minutes. And they just kind of give you like a passing subtitle so you hopefully can remember where these places are, but I don't know where they are in relation to each other. When they travel from one to the other, they just show like a clip of them on horses or on a bird flying to it, and it doesn't really... You don't really get a sense of how much time has really passed. There never seems to be any sunset or nighttime at any point. As far as I know, this movie could take all the events in this movie could have taken place over the span of 3 days. I don't really know because they don't really care to keep track of that kind of thing. And these aren't important things. These are all things that kind of are in the background of, that kind of run smoothly in the background of movies like Lord of the Rings or, you know, other fantasy epic type movies, but you don't really notice them because they're done well. Your brain just kind of accepts it. When they're missing, they tend to stand out a little bit more. And again, they don't even mention the main characters' names until like the third or fourth scene or something like that. And then you better fucking remember it, because then they're not going to say it again for a long time. And you'll be wondering when they do mention it, they'll be like, who's Lothgar? Who's Katcar again? Katcar. Oh, right. The guy that doesn't talk with an accent, even though everyone else in the movie talks with it. He was probably the worst performance in the movie. Everyone else did fine. No one stands out as being bad, but the guy that plays Katcar, I know he has a different name. I just call him Katcar because I think it's funny. The guy that plays Katcar stood out as being just like, you didn't even try to have an accent. Like, he tried in the first scene, and then he drops it for the rest of the movie, and he talks like a modern guy. So, Warcraft, I don't know. See, on the one hand, I don't know. I'm not the right audience for this movie. You wouldn't watch a review. When the first Pokemon movie came out, you wouldn't watch a review of a parent who went to see this movie and take that as an honest, like, is it a good or a bad movie? Because it's not for them. You know, that's kind of what this was. I felt like the parent that, I mean, I went alone, but it kind of felt like I was the parent that would take a kid to see this movie, and I'd just be like, I don't know, maybe is that important to you? I don't know. Do you know what that means? It's a big rock thing. It's got a scribble on it. Okay, well, all right, that's important to you. I guess you know what that means then. Glad you're happy. So on the one hand, I'm not the audience for this movie, but then on the other hand, this is kind of Blizzard's chance to market Warcraft outside and gain, like, more attention. You would think that the opinion of somebody who's never had any exposure to Warcraft would be even more valid, because you would want to know how they, how it holds up as just a movie, if it speaks to them, if they get it at all. So I'm fucking dying in this car. I'm melting like a snowman right now. So I'm just gonna wrap up. The Warcraft movie is not bad, but they knew who their audience was. They made it for players of the game, not really for anybody else. And then if anyone gets interested enough to pick up the game, then cool, is kind of what it felt like. But it isn't poorly made all the way through. There are poorer aspects than others, and then there are greater aspects that shine through every now and then. No performance, except for Katcar, no performance is outright bad. But nothing really stands out as being like a congratulations solo golf clap either. So, do I recommend the movie? If you play Warcraft, absolutely, because you will probably gain more out of it than I did. I'd be curious to know from like a Warcraft player if this movie holds up, if it does justice to the games or what have you, because if you love this movie, by all means, I will not take it from you. It is not a bad movie, but I don't think that what it comes down to is I'll probably never watch it again. I've seen it once. My curiosity has been satisfied. It's not going to make me go out and get the game. I honestly, after having seen the Warcraft movie, I feel exactly the same way about Warcraft in general as I always have. It's a thing. It's important to the gaming community. It exists. It has its audience. I don't feel any strong positive or negative feelings towards it any one way or the other. Whether or not you could argue that's a failure on the movie's part or not is subjective, but that's my thoughts on Warcraft. If you're gonna go see it and you love the Warcraft series, get in touch with me and let me know how it holds up. If you have no idea what an orc is or any of the stuff going on in the games and stuff, and you go to see this movie, try and pay attention, especially in the first 20 to 30 minutes. Glean all the information that you can, and then kind of try to piece it together. You may be able to follow along better than I did. but still, I can't guarantee you'll love it all the way through. So that's my thoughts on Warcraft. And I promise my Apocalypse and what's its putts Ninja Turtles review will be up here soon. So take care. I'm gonna go hydrate. Bye.